What's up everyone? So today I'm going to show you guys how to drive a motorcycle. We're going to take a ride on my 2007 Honda CBR600rr. Such an awesome bike. I would recommend it as a beginner bike. Maybe if you've ridden dirt bikes before and you know how the clutch and everything works, this would be a relatively easy transition for you. So let's go ahead and hop on. Before we get the bike on and moving and all that, I'm going to go over all of your hand controls as well as your foot controls. So on the right side you have your throttle, so of course this will make the bike move. You have your front brake, your engine kill switch, engine start button. On the left side we have your clutch. We also have your horn, turn signal, and your high beam light. Now onto the foot controls. On the right side, this is your rear brake lever, and then on the left side is the actual shifter. So on this bike, this is a 6-speed, so pulling in the clutch, I'm going to go down into first gear. I do have it in neutral right now, and neutral is halfway between first and second. So we're going to go down all the way for first gear, and then you would go up 5 all the way to 6th gear. So I'm going to keep it in neutral right now. So now on to actually getting the bike to move. So what you would do is pull in the clutch, and you would put it into first gear, so pop the shift lever down 1. And then slowly letting out the clutch, you'll be able to tell the bite point in the clutch, which is the point where the engine and transmission will start to engage and work together and start to move the bike forward. So the bite point on my bike is right about here, and so at that point I would start to give the bike a little bit of gas and fully let the clutch all the way out. So now when you're on the gas, you're going to be driving like you would in a normal vehicle when you take your foot off the brake and you're just cruising on the gas. Same thing on the bike, the clutch is all the way out and you'll just be cruising on the throttle. To switch gears, when you have the clutch all the way in, then you're going to upshift to the next gear and slowly repeat that process. So you're going to slowly let the clutch out while you give the bike a little bit of gas. Now motorcycles of course weigh a lot less than a normal car, so my bike will actually start to move in first gear even with your hand off of the gas. Now that's not going to happen in every situation. I am on relatively flat ground right now, so you'll see in a bit when we start the bike up, I'll show you both ways. So now that we have all of the hand controls down and a little bit of how the shifting works, we'll go ahead and start up the bike and put all that into motion. So now I'm all geared up, we're ready to go for a ride. I'm going to put the kickstand up, turn on all the electronics here. This red lever needs to be pushed down, and then we can go ahead and start up the bike. Now again, I am on flat ground, so it's going to make it easier to start up the bike. If you are on a decline, or an incline I should say, having your front brake in and both feet on the ground will help you hold the bike from rolling backwards. So if you can, just try to start off on flat ground. We're going to go ahead and pull the clutch in all the way, push that gear shifter down 1. You're going to see the neutral light on the dash disappear. Now what we're going to do, find that bite point like I mentioned earlier, and you can see without my hand on the gas, the bike is already starting to move. So as it starts to move, we can give it a little bit of gas. If you're on flat ground, it's going to be easier to actually not use the gas, so you can see how I'm already starting to move without gas. We're going to go ahead and give it some throttle and completely let off the clutch. So now we're just rolling like normal. And now if I want to shift into the next gear, I'm going to pull that clutch in all the way, let off the gas, upshift with my left foot, and we're going to start that process again by slowly letting the clutch out and giving the bike some gas. Alright, so now that we've gone over all the basics on shifting, let's take that out onto the road now. Something to do when you're coming to a stop is you're going to pull that clutch all the way in, put the bike into neutral. You can see that light up on the dash. Neutral is going to be halfway between first gear and second gear. So if you're in first gear, you're going to lift up just a little bit, not quite fully into second gear. So now you're into neutral. If you are in second gear, if you just tap on that lever ever so slightly, you'll pop it back into neutral. So we're going to have it in first gear. Go ahead and let the clutch out on the throttle. We'll go ahead and pull in the clutch, upshift to second, let the clutch out, back on the throttle. Now we're in second gear. So we'll do that a little quicker this time, into third. And then we have fourth gear, same thing. Fifth gear, and sixth gear. Now you don't always have to go all the way up to 6th gear. I'm going about 30 miles an hour, so I could probably be in 3rd or 4th, but I just like cruising, and for this video I'll put it all the way up to into 6th gear, so that way I can also show you downshifting. So it's the same thing as upshifting. We're going to pull the clutch in. This time we're going back down on the shifter, so we'll go down, let the clutch out, and back on the throttle again. And in some cases, if you're out on the track or a nice back mountain road, you don't always have to let the throttle out all the way downshifting. So I'm going to keep on the throttle and go ahead and quickly downshift. So that'll just help keep your RPM range a little bit higher as you're downshifting. That'll just help save on your transmission there. But again, upshifting, we're going to let all the way off the gas. So cruising out on the road, you're going to get to know your bike and what speeds you can go in what gear. Right now I'm at about 3,000 RPM. I'm just cruising in 6th gear. I could probably be down a few gears, but I'm just cruising, so I'm up into 6th gear, keeping the RPMs low. And now I'm going to go ahead and downshift, so I'm going to pull the clutch in and then pop down on the shift lever. Sometimes you can just stay on the gas, so that just helps keep your revs up while you're downshifting to a lower gear. And now we're coming up to a stop. So what I like to do is I keep the bike in gear until it gets to a certain point where the bike feels like it's going to bog out. And in that point, I'll go all the way to neutral. When I'm stopped too, I like to have my right hand on the front brake. That just keeps my bike from moving, especially on this hill that I'm on right now. I can go ahead and give it some gas and let the clutch all the way out. So around that whole turn, what I did is I kept the bike in neutral to let off the clutch. You don't want to keep the clutch engaged all the time. That's going to just add more stress to the clutch. So when you're at a dead stop, you can leave your hand off and keep the bike in neutral. And when you're ready to accelerate again, we'll go ahead and put it into 1st gear. Now I do have my hand on the front brake, just helping me from moving front or backwards. I'm on relatively flat ground. You'll see another bike cruising by. Go ahead and pull the clutch in, put it in 1st gear. We're going to take off. So something that's a little different driving a vehicle compared to a bike is that I always have a few fingers on my front brake. Sometimes I'll let my right foot kind of just sit off of the rear brake, but I always have a finger or two on the front brake. And that's, even right now, even though the cars are a little bit ahead of me, I'm always going to have at least something to help slow me down. As you can see, I just pulled on the front brake a little bit. That's another reason why you don't want to fully slam on that brake to get that rear tire off the ground, because that, of course, would not be fun. But always got to think of safety when you're riding a motorcycle. Of course, it's a lot different than being in a car. So we're coming to a stop again. I'm going to go down to neutral. Go back up to 3rd gear here. So here's where I want to stay constant on the gas. Carry that momentum all the way through. So as far as braking on a motorcycle goes, coming up to this stoplight here, you're going to want to put about 70% of your braking power to the front wheels. And the reason that you do that is because, of course, when you slow down, all the momentum from your bike is going to go to the front. All that momentum needs to be stopped, but it's all going to go to that front wheel. So on my bike, I do have 2 discs up front compared to 1 disc in the rear. Now, different bikes like Harleys or those big cruiser Goldwing bikes, they're going to be a little bit different since they actually have weight over the rear tire. Some of them have little trunks, so they have a lot more weight. On a street bike like this, 70% of your stopping power goes to the front wheels, 30% goes to the rear wheels. So you're going to be hard on that front brake, but of course you don't want to go too hard that you do an Indo and pop that rear tire off the ground. Of course, that wouldn't be fun unless you're doing that on purpose. So you're not going to go hard on the front brake, but you're going to grab it quite a bit. And what I normally like to do is just tap my rear brake. That also illuminates my brake light to let the person behind me know that I'm slowing down, while I keep a constant grab on the front brake. So we're coming up to a stop right now. I'm hard on the front brake, tapping the rear brake, and I already put the bike back into neutral, as you can see. I'm keeping on that front brake so I don't roll backwards. Now in this case, I can keep the bike in gear because nobody is coming. I'm not sitting for a long period of time there. So I hope you all enjoyed that video on how to ride a motorcycle. For me, it's been a lot of fun. Of course, I grew up riding dirt bikes and racing them as well, so transitioning to the street was relatively easy for me, and I've had such a blast on this bike so far. If you enjoyed that video, be sure to give it the thumbs up. Click on that subscribe button down below so you can stay tuned for more videos on the channel. I'll see you all next video.